Is the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G still worth buying in late 2022? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, and this is the Galaxy A53 5G. Now this device was launched in March of 2022, so at this point, it isn't necessarily even that old of a phone. However, since its release, there have been a variety of other awesome mid-range smartphones that have hit the market, so I figured this video would be a good chance to kind of look back on things to reflect on whether the A53 5G is still worth getting. Now, since being launched, this device has been a massive success for Samsung. It has been a huge seller, and I know at least compared to other videos I've done on my channel, most of my most popular videos, even up to this date, are about this device. So clearly this phone has been selling quite a bit, whether it's directly from Samsung or at the carriers, and that's definitely a great thing to see, as I do think this is a very good device. And speaking of which, as I just mentioned literally a second ago, you can get this phone from Samsung directly, and the carriers are offering a variety of different great discounts and promotions on this phone. And that's at least from my experience of what I've seen. Now I have linked to this device in the video description, so you can take a look on your own and see what the offers are currently for this device. But I'd imagine that most people will not be paying the full MSRP for it, just based on the amount of deals that seem to be floating around online. Now the A53 5G does come in a very slim box, and the reason for that is because there is no USB wall adapter included. We do, however, get a SIM card removal tool. We also get a quick start guide for the phone, and we also get a double-sided USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. Now with this device, we're getting a very large 6.5-inch display. Now this display does feature Corning Gorilla Glass 5, which does make it extra durable, which is nice. We're also getting a Super AMOLED display featuring a refresh rate of 120 Hz, so a really nice, smooth experience when navigating around the interface here. This phone definitely feels a lot more premium and high-end than it is, which is certainly a really good thing. Now, this display, since it is Super AMOLED, has excellent viewing angles. Colors also look really great and accurate as well. And overall, by having such a great display on this device, it really makes the A53 5G the ideal phone for watching video content, going on social media, or really any sort of content consumption. I know ebooks also look great on here, so it's really nice to have such a great looking display still in a very pocketable form factor. And one of the reasons for that is because we do have very small bezels all throughout. So the bottom bezel is maybe slightly thicker than the other bezels, but in general, this phone has a great practical form factor to it. Now the display is 1080p. We are getting a PPI of 405. We do have a 20:9 aspect ratio, so a more narrow but taller form factor, but that really makes this phone ideal for going on social media, for example, because with that taller form factor, you technically don't have to scroll quite as much to fit as much content into a single frame here, because you can fit more of your feed. And with this device, we're getting an 85.4% screen to body ratio. Now, another awesome thing too, is that even though we do have a hole punch for the front facing camera, it's a very small hole punch. I mean, if you want to compare it to Apple's Dynamic Island, for example, this is way more innovative. And the front facing camera is 32 megapixels. And overall, from my experience, with all the cameras for that matter, this device is very capable of capturing some really good looking images. Now this phone is offered in two different storage configurations. I believe in the US it's only offered in 128 gigs. However, that is quite a bit. But I know there also is a 256 gigabyte version of this phone that also exists. And this device is compatible with microSD card expansion, so it is nice that you can always offload photos and videos, for example, if you do want to free up some of that internal storage. Now, unfortunately, with this device, there is no wireless charging. However, that is the case for every A-series phone that's out there from Samsung. However, this device does feature an in-display fingerprint sensor, which is really fast and accurate. Let's give that a try one more time. But overall, this feature does work really well, and this phone also supports Face Unlock, so I do appreciate that we have multiple methods for accessing the phone. Now with this device, we do have a quad camera setup with a 64 megapixel main camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera that can capture images at up to 123 degrees. We have a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera to assist with portrait mode, and we have a 5 megapixel macro camera for close-up images. And this phone does support portrait mode for both the rear and front cameras, which is really awesome. Now here's how things look on the camera app. This is with the main camera right now. Then from here, we can switch over to the ultra wide angle camera, which does allow us to fit a lot more content into the frame. Then, in addition to that, we can head over to the More tab to access the macro camera. And with the macro camera, we can get very up close, but still have things be in really good detail. So definitely a useful feature in certain situations. We also have portrait mode, so you get those nice blurred out backgrounds. And we also have the option here to adjust the amount of blur. We can also flip around to the front-facing camera and take portrait selfies with a blur toggle as well. And then you can also switch over to take a group selfie if you want to, which does crop things out a little bit. So certainly a nice feature. And in general, I'm really impressed with the cameras on the Galaxy A53 5G. Definitely take a look at my full review of the Galaxy A53 5G to see a variety of different photo and video samples from all the various cameras on this device. But essentially, if you're looking for a phone that can take good, usable images, but at the same time, maybe isn't quite as expensive or sophisticated as a $1,000 smartphone, then I definitely don't think you'll be disappointed with the cameras that we're getting here with the A53 5G. Quality is definitely good enough to share on social media, that's for sure. And even if you're going on a vacation and you want to capture those memories, you'll have no issues with the various cameras on here. They certainly do get the job done. Now, in addition to that, this phone does support 4K video recording for both the front-facing camera and rear camera, which is especially awesome. So you'll have no problem taking really great looking video on this device. And as far as the RAM and processor that we're getting, this device features 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM, depending on region. I believe in the US it comes with 6 gigs of RAM, and the processor is the Samsung Exynos 1280. Now with that processor, expect to get mid-range performance in the sense that similar to the cameras, you're not getting quite the level as a $1,000 smartphone, but at the same time, for the average smartphone user out there, I would say this is completely adequate. Unless you're doing high-performance gaming or video editing or something more advanced like that, this phone will get the job done as far as performance goes. And then with the processor that we're getting, we also do get 5G support, as you probably noticed already from the name of this phone. Now at this point in 2022, I do think you can get by without 5G, but at the same time, if you're gonna go out and buy a brand new smartphone, you might as well get one that does support your carrier's latest and greatest network. Now I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test with this device, and I'll show you the scores from that test right now, but essentially, I got a single core score of 742 and a multi-core score of 1910. So what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and then compare your scores to these scores to get a better idea of how the Galaxy A53 5G compares to your current device. Because it certainly is possible that this phone could be a performance downgrade compared to your current phone. And if that's the case, then I'd imagine that you wouldn't want to get this as an upgrade. Now with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, we do have a very large 5,000 milliamp hour internal battery, so definitely expect to get really good battery life with this phone, easily a day, if not 2 days of usage. And the phone does support up to 25 watt fast charging, but keep in mind that you will have to use a 25 watt charger to actually get that full 25 watt fast charging. I know that your typical wall adapter that maybe comes with any random tech product tends to range from 5 watts to 10 watts. So if you just reuse that with this phone, sure, it will recharge the phone, but keep in mind that you're recharging it at a fraction of the rate that it potentially could be recharged at. And that's especially noticeable with a large battery like we're getting in this phone, because at 5,000 milliamp hours, it could potentially take a long time to recharge if you're not using the right charger with it. So just something to consider there. Now, as far as the software, this phone does feature Android 12 running Samsung's One UI 4.1. Now, if you've used any Samsung device in the last several years, overall, the experience should feel very familiar to you. And for me personally, I am a big fan of Samsung's One UI because I feel like they take the best aspects of stock Android, but at the same time, they add in their own various features. And most of the features that Samsung adds to their Android skin tends to actually be features that are useful rather than just gimmicky features. But with this device, we do have NFC. We also have IP67 dust and water resistance, which means that you can take this phone underwater for up to 1 meter for up to 30 minutes. And the phone also features stereo speakers. So when you're watching video content or listening to music, for example, you're going to be getting audio coming out of both the main speaker on the bottom of the device, but also the earpiece as well, which does give you a lot more of an immersive audio listening experience. But in general, it's no coincidence that the Galaxy A53 5G has been such a success for Samsung. We really are getting some excellent specifications here. At the same time, we're also getting really good software optimization, giving us a really worthwhile mid-range smartphone. And then combining that with the very generous deals that Samsung offers, as well as the promotions from the various carriers, I am not surprised that this phone has been as successful as it's been. Now, this device is made completely of plastic, besides the front panel, which is made of glass. But despite that, this phone does look and feel decently premium. It definitely feels a lot more expensive than it is, which is certainly a good thing. But at the same time, I do recommend pairing this phone up with some sort of case, because I know that plastic does tend to get pretty scratched up as time goes on. But taking a look at the left side of the phone, we have nothing. Then on the right side, we have volume up, volume down, and also the power button. Then up top here, we have the noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom of the device, we have the slot for the microSD card and SIM card, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the main speaker. And then on the back of the device, we have the camera module, Samsung logo, and that's pretty much it. Now, I am a big fan of this finish on the back of the phone, as it really doesn't pick up too many fingerprints, so that's certainly a great thing, as I'm really not a fan of devices that have a reflective back, just because of that reason that it seems like they always have a lot of fingerprints on them. But overall, Samsung made a great choice with the materials with this device, considering that it is a mid-range smartphone. Probably the most significant thing that you probably noticed that's not here is a 3.5mm headphone jack. So if you do want to use your standard wired headphones with the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G, then you are going to have to get some sort of adapter to plug into the USB-C port, because there is no dedicated jack here. Now, for many people, that might not be a problem because they might use Bluetooth speakers and headphones, but if you still do like to use wired headphones, then just know that that is one limitation here. But in conclusion, I'm a big fan of the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. This device really offers a lot for being a mid-range smartphone. Overall, the main downsides to this phone compared to an S-series device, so a more premium phone from Samsung, would just be that we're not getting as good of build materials. We're also not getting as powerful of a processor. The display isn't quite as good as a S-series phone, and then also with this device, the cameras are not quite as good. But as a phone that's half the price, compared to those more premium options, we are getting a lot of value here. But most importantly, I'm really curious to know what you think about the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G. Do you currently have this phone? And if so, do you like it? Or do you wish you would have gotten something else instead? Definitely let me know in the comment section below. But this is the Samsung Galaxy A53 5G in late 2022. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next video.